I'm Sarvesen, and welcome to Medically Speaking. I'll be a host for this episode, and our topic for today is particularly interesting. It's about elective postings abroad and stories from there. So today, we'll be having two other medical students, aside from myself, joining us in the studio. My dear friend, Radneish and my senior, Chirag Vikram Ramachandani. Okay, let's fake that. Round of applause. And now, Radneish, would you like to give us an introduction?
Yeah, sure. Hi guys, my name is Radneish Kanisan. I'm from Shah Alam and I'm currently a semester 5 medical student in IMU. So for my elective postings, I did it in Chennai, India, at a university. It's called Savita University, and it happened for about a month. Yeah, pretty good experience, and I'll share it along as I talk later.
All right. Chirag?
Hi everyone, my name is Chirag Vikram Ramachandani, and I'm a third year medical student at IMU, and I would like to talk about my experience being posted in Italy, more specifically in the city of Genoa. I was posted for a month in the nephrology department, and I got to learn a lot of stuff, and hopefully you get to also hear what I have to say about it.
Okay, Chirag. Sounds like you have a lot of stories. But we'll get back to that in a bit. So let's just do a quick overview of how your elective posting took place in your respective hospitals, shall we? Alright, so Chirag, why don't you start with your posting in nephrology in Genoa, Italy? How did that work?
Sure. So I applied through the organization called SMAMS Malaysia. So it is the Society of Medical Students, Malaysian medical students in Malaysia. And basically they are affiliated with IFMSA, which is an international federation of medical students. And they host medical exchanges in the clinical side and the research side for medical students all around the world. So I, as a third year medical student, applied for this exchange through the SMAMS, and I basically represented Malaysia over there. And it is a 1-month internship program in the month of September. Basically, I got a few choices, like in different cities in Italy. So I picked Naples, Genoa, and my first two were Naples and Genoa. So I got Genoa, and I also got to pick different specialties, but it was based on first come first serve and based on the availability. So I got nephrology. It was my third choice. So basically it lasted from the start of the month to the end of the month, Mondays to Fridays.
So what about you, Radneish? How did you get into Savita Medical College?
Okay, so initially it wasn't my plan to do it at Savita Medical. So supposedly I was going to do it locally at a private hospital. But then some of my friends, they had a plan on going abroad to do their elective postings, especially in Chennai. So then, it sounds interesting, and it's like a one-time experience which I really wanted to try. So then the application there took a lot of time actually. We had to go through IMU's international office department. So it took about almost a month of emails and communication from IMU to Savita's Dean's office, the Dean of International Affairs. And finally we got it. Yeah, it was really exciting to get it. And once we got the application, the offer, we started booking our flight tickets. Then we had to settle our accommodation. So I stayed with a friend of mine. His name is Savin Raj. He's also in my batch. So we stayed at the university guest house. And our overall experience at Savita Hospital was like a boarding school, you know. It's just that instead of going to school, you go to the hospital. Because the university guest house itself, it's like located within the campus. It's like 10 minutes walking distance to the hospital. So we learned a lot during our experience there, and going abroad for these clinical elective postings, definitely like it taught a lot of stuff because it's something different compared to Malaysia. Yeah.
we'll get into that stories later on. It sounds to me like going through the international office was different from going through SMAMS, you said, Chirag, the organization you went through?
Yes, so the organization is independent from any university. It's actually a non-profit, non-governmental organization in Malaysia. So I had to apply directly to the organization itself through their application link and whatnot.
So it sounds like you guys both went through different application processes, but our idea today is to give the listeners what it was like working in different countries, which has completely different or somewhat same healthcare system than Malaysia. So Radneish, let's start with you, since it's still in the same continent, Asia. How was India? Like, how was your day in Chennai Sarvesen University Hospital?
Okay, so at Chennai, we had postings from Monday to Saturday. It's like 6 days a week, and starts about 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, it's like considered going for work every day. Starts about 8 o'clock, and most days we try to end by 3. Some days, if we want to learn more, we stay up until 4 or 5 p.m. Okay, and it's basically like we were given a broad range of specialties, because initially we had to choose only 5, but then because we requested for more, so we had like surgery, orthopedics, OB-GYN, ENT, general medicine, and so on. So we spent about 2 to 3 days in each specialty for about a month, and our day-to-day life was actually pretty much like routine, because it's just waking up.
Why don't you go in depth about how each day would look like what would the first thing you do, and like the itinerary bit?
Okay, so first thing, we wake up. We stayed in the guest house, and the breakfast served in the guest house was actually really good. So we took up the offer of this buffet. It's about like a package which comes with the accommodation. So after breakfast, we walk to the hospital, it's about 10 minutes walk. And the first thing that we have to do in the morning is to meet the head of department for each specialty. So in some departments, they will be waiting for us, but in some other departments, we have to wait for them. So the waiting game is different there. And once we met the head of departments, then we can proceed to like discussions with the other students and ward rounds specifically. And in some departments, we went to the operation theaters. So our mornings were basically like learning about the different cases in the hospital, and then it comes our lunch break, and after that, just a follow-up. Or sometimes if there are like surgeries scheduled for after lunch, then we will go to the operation theater. Or if there's like additional skills session, any like simulated skills session, we will join for that as well. And pretty much that's all. We settled all our requirements, and by the time we head back to the guest house, it's about 4 or 5 p.m. and that's it for the day. We are pretty much tired after that.
That sounds like a full day. But Chirag, was your schedule somewhat similar to what Radneish described? You know, start off with ward rounds and meeting with the consultant and just following them around, learning, and probably learning session with other students or something like that?
It was definitely much more chill than what Radneish got to experience in the college in India. My experience, my experience did not involve much of a discussion after the whole day ended. Like, my day was mostly ward rounds in the morning, and then observing the residents and the nephrologists do their patient counseling, their charting, and their analyzing of the lab work. So I learned mainly through a third-person point of view. I was not as much involved as, say, Radneish was in his postings in India. just to give a background, I also did the postings with Radneish as well, so I can speak first-handedly, comparing my experience in India with Radneish and also from Italy.
So, in your rotation with each specialty, you said, Radneish, you were working in multiple specialties for a few days. So, you would have seen first-handedly how the doctors work there, or the housemen, or the interns, whatever term they use there.
Yeah.
Would you say your schedule was somewhat similar to what they were doing, or how would you say their work life is like?
Okay, the beauty of this university, it's a university hospital. So not only we interact with doctors there, but there's a lot of medical students who, instead of like going to college as usual, they also play a role in the patient care there. So like the doctor-patient relationship there is actually quite important. On the first or second day itself, we were shown how like patient respect was the most important factor there. So like our head of department, he taught us about how the culture of the doctors there, they treat their patients with a lot of respect, and that the patient isn't above the doctor. So like everyone is equal. That's one of the main things that they instilled on us from day one. And throughout the whole month, the culture was shown as well. And you mentioned about how my interactions with the doctor, right? Yeah, so they were actually really friendly, to be honest. Some of them were strict at first, but then like they got more open later on. And the interns and the postgraduate residents there, they were also willing to teach us about how the culture there is and how we talk to patients, because compared to theory, clinical knowledge also involves a lot of communication skills, and that is one of the main things I learned in India, which is that how we talk to the people, it also depends on your attitude and your behavior.
What about you, Chirag? Was there such a value which was given so much importance when you're working in Italy?
Value to what, sorry?
I mean, Radneish was talking about, having respect, the value of respect towards patient as a big, a pivotal principle that you have to follow in your practice. So was there such a value when you're, interacting with patients in Italy?
Yeah, I definitely found the resemblance, the similarity in Italy as well. The doctors and the residents respect the patients, and not only that, they allow the patients to make a lot of their own personal decisions. They inform the patients with complete knowledge. So it's the doctor-patient relationship is much more than I would have seen in India per se, as India's population is a lot, so the healthcare is much more much faster, the delivery of healthcare compared to Italy, where patients can spend more time to talk about their health, and doctors can also spend more time to build their rapport and the trust with the patients. So I would say that since the patient load is lesser in Italy, so I got to observe more of the doctor-patient relationship and how it builds over the course of the patient journey. So I was in nephrology, so there were mostly chronic kidney cases. So the doctors had a great relationship with their patients who frequently visited the doctors. So they even seemed very jovial, and they shared personal stories. So that was something unique to see.
Okay, it sounds like respect is a thing that goes a long way. But something that you mentioned there, the population size and the need to move from one patient to another as quick as possible. So
yes,
that definitely affects your relationship with the patient themselves. So how do you think they handled that there, Radneish?
Okay, honestly, for India, like Chirag mentioned, the population size is too great, and the fact that Savita alone, it has like a private center and a government health scheme run center. So in the government side of the hospital, there will be a lot of patients, countless every day, and not only that, they have a lot of, even though there's a lot of doctors, still it takes a lot of time for patients to see the doctors. There's long waiting hours, and then it comes to like consultation time. Consultation time obviously has to be reduced to cater for more patients, and after that, follow-up is also scheduled. But the thing is, if you have a lot of patients, when you cater the follow-up, it has to be like for a long period of time, not immediately, and there will be a lot of patients. So the doctor-patient relationship, the bond, it cannot be created as strong as maybe in healthcare in Italy. But then people here, they prioritize like efficiency and recovery compared to like patient comfort, I would say. So they tend to be like more efficient in the way they do things. They want to get things done as quickly as possible and to prioritize patient recovery as fast as possible and try to discharge them because there's more patients coming in and they have to deal with them.
And Chirag, you mentioned something that you also did some sort of posting in Malaysia as well.
Yes.
Can you compare between your experience in Italy with the experience you had in Malaysia? Like, how was the patient care here?
Okay, so I did my postings recently in the Institute Jantung Negara, or the National Heart Institute in Malaysia.
Yeah, everyone knows.
And and I did nephrology in Italy and cardiology in Malaysia. So in terms of comparing the specialties, I wouldn't have much to say. But I also found that the patient load in this hospital in Malaysia was quite a lot, as this is the main center of cardiology in Malaysia, I think. So most of the patients come to this hospital, and since the population of Kuala Lumpur or the whole Selangor area is also much greater than the population of Genoa, so the patient load is much higher. That's one thing. The second thing is I would agree with what Radneish said, that since the healthcare system has to adapt to the challenges, so in Malaysia they would have to be more efficient and spend less time with the patients compared to how much time they would spend in Italy. So I observed in Italy actually that outpatient care, they dedicate at least half an hour per patient, which is almost absurd if I think about this being practiced in Malaysia or India, where they spend hardly almost maximum 5 minutes per patient. In Italy, I observed a lot of communication between the doctor and each patient. Whereas in cardiology unit in Malaysia, I observed that the cardiologist mainly counseled follow-up patients, observed, analyzed their lab results, and told them what markers that they would have to decrease or what markers are very high for them to take medication, and finally just prescribe medication. So I did not observe a lot of the patient describing their situation, describing their problems, describing their symptoms very elaborately compared to how much I saw the patients talk about their life and their symptoms and their problems in Italy in the outpatient care and nephrology.
That is quite descriptive and elaborative, I should say. Yeah, I think the patient burden plays a huge impact or influence
Yes.
on the way patient care is delivered. And before we go on to the last few questions, Radneish, you wanted to add something?
No, I just heard Chirag, he mentioned something about outpatient care. So just want to add a little bit from my experience in India. So I myself went as a patient one of the days. So not really, it's like, okay, I had this toe-nail fungal infection kind of thing. I did get some medications in Malaysia, but then they didn't really work that much. And so I consulted the doctors there. I wanted to try in India. And the process of getting healthcare there is actually not too different from in Malaysia if it's like a public healthcare provider. So what I just did was I went to the registration and I paid 10 rupees to see the doctor. And my waiting time also, I had to wait for a bit, but it was okay lah. I went to see a dermatologist, and the thing about this hospital is that all the specialties, they have like integrated rooms in one specific place in the hospital. So if you are an outpatient, you can go to that area and let's say you have a chest problem or a leg problem or like something to do with mental health maybe. So there's also like cubicles for psychiatry, there's cubicles for dermatology, there's cubicles for respiratory medicine. So all these various cubicles are placed in one area. So from my experience, I went to dermatology and I consulted the doctor there. She gave me some advice and where to get my medications. So it was pretty good, pretty efficient as well. And because the hospital did not sell that particular medication, so I had to go to a outdoor pharmacy or outside pharmacy to get it. That's just my experience.
Even in outpatient care itself, everything was sort of centralized, or everything was in the same place?
Yep.
Okay.
They have 5 stations of such. Sorry?
That is something that I've not seen in Malaysia personally. If you guys have seen, do pitch in. But that is something new that I've not personally seen and would like to see how that functions. But overall, with your experience abroad and your personal experience working with different sort of patients and population, how would you say that experience has shaped your point of view about healthcare? Let's start with Radneish.
Okay, so when it comes to healthcare, all we can think of is like patient care and like how we can improve the lives of our patients. So my first clinical exposure was in India actually. Before this in Malaysia, I did not go for any postings in any hospital or such. It was only like small clinics. So in a hospital setting, healthcare there was really crucial, I would say, because I saw a lot of patients with difficulties and patients who they have barely enough to survive their day. And because it's also like a government scheme run hospital, and the fact that there's so many patients there and it's really complicated to focus on one patient, but still you could see that everyone is getting a little bit of what they deserve. It would be better if healthcare is much more accessible for everyone, because in some cases also there's like long transportation journeys, long waiting hours. So healthcare was really different. I expected it to be like something more direct on a day-to-day basis, but then when I went there and I saw patients who had been there for months after a stroke, for example, or after an accident, so it really explains a lot about the patients that one needs to become a healthcare provider. It's not like something you can do on a day-to-day basis and your patient comes and just goes like that. Obviously there are some cases where it's like a 1-2 day thing, but in a clinical setting, especially in a big hospital, there's a lot of major cases where you have to deal with more than the disease. You have to deal with the family, you have to deal with the patient's everyday life and how it affects their recovery. That was something which I felt was pretty meaningful for me.
That resonates with many even in Malaysia, like it's a global message, honestly, that healthcare isn't only about the patient's health, but also their surroundings, their family, their social status, and everything that comes within it. So that is something for us all to learn. And what about you, Chirag? What would you say really shaped your view about healthcare?
Okay. So as a third year medical student, where the clinical phase of medicine is just starting, we get to see a whole new world of clinical practice compared to how we study in medical theory. So I would say that going to a foreign healthcare system like Italy, I learned a lot of new values and perspective compared to doing the postings in Malaysia or India. So I would just like to reiterate that the points mentioned that I said before, that there's a lot more time spent building the rapport and the trust between the doctors and the patient. So this goes on to building the relationship between the doctor and the patient. And I understood the importance of communication and empathy through this experience. So that's one thing. The second thing that I would say is I saw the camaraderie between the residents and the senior doctors and the nurses. They all worked together, and just like how I mentioned that the doctors and the patients had an amazing relationship, even the staff in the hospital, they all worked together and had a healthy working environment. And that is something that I would like to take in my future career and practice also. Yeah, that's what I would like to say.
I guess camaraderie, empathy, and communication are three main things that Chirag mentioned there about the healthcare system.
Oh yeah, and sorry, I would like to interject. Also, the language barrier was an issue. So mostly all the patients and the doctors spoke Italian. So that's another lesson I learned, that whichever country you go to practice, you do need to know the language, and that helps build the relationship with the patient. And also make sure that the patient opens up to you, feels comfortable with you. So it's essential that you pick up the language, and in whichever country that you want to study medicine in or practice.
True enough. I mean, when I was doing my elective posting, I remember handling a Slovakian woman, and none of the team members knew how to speak with her, and we were using Google Translate, and having her grandson be the translator for her. So yeah, language barriers is a crucial thing to work with. And Radneish, what is it that's going on in your mind?
I just wanted to ask Chirag, did you learn Italian, or did you learn to speak?
Yeah, I learned a few words to greet patients, but other than that, I did not learn any medical terminology or just the basic words, I would say. And I use Google Translate all the time. It was extremely difficult, but over time I got used to asking my supervisor to translate for me every time. At first he was a bit he had to get used to it as well, but over time we made sure to understand. I made sure to understand and ask whatever doubts I have in the postings.
All right, I think that brings us to the end of our episode for today. And the key takeaway things that I myself learned from this discussion is to always remember patient care is not just about their health, it's about everything that affects them, whether it be their family, their economic status, their social status, and their long-term implications of their current treatment. And not to mention the empathy, the camaraderie you'd have, and the barriers you have to overcome to actually treat them. And we did see that there is a difference in the healthcare delivery based on the place we are working in, and each healthcare system works differently to cater to a different population. So if you guys do have more questions, remember to reach out to us. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and we're more than happy to connect you with these two great speakers to share about their experiences in another episode perhaps. Thank you so much. Is there any last words you guys want to add in before we wrap this up? Radneish?
You go ahead, Chirag.
I was waiting for you to.
Okay, maybe just a few words. All the best to the upcoming students, and hope you guys enjoy your clinical postings, because this is where you go into the real world. All this while we are studying in the books, burning the midnight oil and all. But currently through these postings you are able to apply your knowledge, and it's not for everyone. It's like a culture shock for me as well. I found it difficult at first to adapt because I'm not much of an outgoing person, but then with the help of my friends and all, we slowly adapted into it. So all the best.
And Chirag?
I would like to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my experience on this podcast with you, Sarvesen. And I guess I would like to say that if you get an opportunity like this, do seize it, because in every country they have different medical practices. You get to experience a different healthcare delivery, so that will make you a more well-rounded doctor in the future, and it will also help you identify what kind of practice you want to practice as a healthcare doctor, because that's what I learned. What kind of values I want to prioritize, and in the future how can I integrate the policies in other countries and connect it to policies in my home country and make a better system and contribute to the healthcare meaningfully. So that's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you both, Radneish and Chirag, for your inputs today. And this brings to our end of this episode. Do remember to check out our previous episodes on similar topics and much more. And this is me, Sarvesen, signing off. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.